So we drove down to a Huntsville facility to get Austin when he was released from prison. And I had a vision of Tiny, Cottle, I think her name is. Well, she's T.I. Harris's wife. And, well, Clifford Harris's wife. And when I was in the Montgomery County Jail for protecting myself from Austin after he got out of prison, I was having visions of a lot of celebrities. And I had a vision and I went to a home where Tamika, T.I.'s wife, Tiny, was there. And Tiny asked me and I'm actually in Atlanta, Georgia right now. And all of this happened in Texas. So I was in Texas when I had this vision of Tamika. And it's crazy that I'm in Atlanta now that I'm sharing the information. But Tamika asked me what was Austin in prison for in the vision. And I said assault. And she was like, oh, wow. For America to be trying to harm me and lie and cover up all the evidence to my case. And he was in prison for assault. It's just racist. And so Austin had just got out of prison for assault July 10th, 2018. And he came to my apartment where you see all the pictures of me and Melbourne living our life while he was in prison. So from the explanations of the type of person that he was before he went to prison and the type of person that he was after he went to prison, there was no reason for Tracy Gilbert, a judge in family court in Conroe, Texas, 435th court, either that's his or Patty Madden's. Why would you give my son to him? Why would you give my little boy to a man with this kind of record? I'll tell you why. As retaliation. So it's litigation abuse. You're not supposed to keep a woman and a child in contact with an abuser. And Tracy knows that. Tracy didn't even be there. He wasn't even there for his own son. Look up Tracy Gilbert. Google his name. You'll find an article with him and a grown man that looks just like him. That's his son. He was sued for $300,000 by his child's mother because he was not in his son's life. He never saw his son, didn't even know he had a son. And he was a judge in family court. How does he even have a job? How are you a judge in family court and you never knew you had a son? And this woman comes forward after 20-something years with this grown man that looks exactly like you, saying that Judge Tracy Gilbert never paid any child support for his son. I'm suing him for $300,000. And then he's sitting there smiling with a picture of him and his son. Obviously, he took care of his responsibilities. And there was a $300,000 deficit that they were trying to figure out what happened to the city budget's money. And this man gave my son away and did not even know that he had one. And you can't tell me just because he's white that somebody other than God is not going to help stand up for me. And then think they're going to set me up to be killed for Austin's mother, Cynthia Olvera, and for protecting myself and my son from Austin. And I am pregnant. So let me just go back into some details about when Austin was released from prison, July 10th, 2018. He started attacking me inside of my apartment at 1308 Houston Street. And he was attacking my son. He was punching him in the back. My son was 20 months old. Punching him in the back, throwing him off of furniture, made him hit his head in my son's bedroom, in the living room, and made him fall and bust his head in the kitchen. And he was picking me up and slamming me in my bedroom. He was knocking me down, ramming me into walls inside of my living room. He was attacking me in my kitchen. And he ran me from my home and attacked me in a restaurant. And that's where I shot Austin in the leg while he was attacking my son in the restaurant as well. And he was 22 months old. So from the time that he was released, July 10th, 2018, up until September 18th, 2018, Austin was abusing me and my son, and there were several 911 calls. And he was fleeing from the Conroe Police Department in the vehicle that his mother and father had given to me when I was 5 months pregnant with Melbourne. And he was fleeing to his mother, Cynthia Olveras' house in Magnolia, Texas, and trying to have Cynthia, well, he was having Cynthia lie to the Conroe Police Department and say, oh, arrest Andrea. Austin has a scratch on his body. I never even defended myself from Austin in the house. If anything, I might have blocked some hits and he might have gotten scratched. But I was pregnant and bleeding while he was attacking me in the apartment, and I was telling Austin that I was bleeding, and he knew that I had missed my period. He was raping me inside of the apartment as well. When I was saying that I did not want to have sex, he was forcing me to do it anyway, and I started bleeding, and he was picking me up while I was bleeding and still pregnant and slamming me down. And I was screaming and calling Cynthia and telling Cynthia that he was abusing me. His father, Joseph, came over yelling and almost yelling at me for calling the police on Austin because he had just gotten out of prison in July. So he had not even been out for a month. And he was already abusing me and our son, and I was pregnant. And after a month, I was pregnant. And so within 2 months, the shooting happened. And by this time, I was pregnant and I was bleeding out a lot. And so Joseph almost fought him in my living room in front of my little boy because I told Joseph he cannot live here. He has to go and live with you and Cynthia. Austin was drinking alcohol the first night that he was released from prison. He was binge drinking bottles of alcohol, glasses of alcohol. At the restaurant that we went to, Applebee's, he was drinking bottles of white liquor and brown liquor back to back, and he was falling all in my son's room, abusing me all over the apartment, throwing up on the floor, leaving the vomit on the floor, and abusing me, extremely drunk, throwing glass bottles, destroying all of my property, and fleeing drunk in this vehicle to Cynthia's home. And she was covering for him. And the police were going through the woods looking for him. He was hiding in the woods behind my apartment. He was breaking into my home. And I was calling 911 on the phone with the 911 operator saying that I did not want to allow Austin back into my apartment. And I told Austin that I needed for him to get counseling first before he could ever come back into our lives. And the shooting ended up happening. I was calling the Justice of Peace because the Conroe police were saying that they could not make him leave my home after 72 hours of him being released from prison and being in my home. And I called the Justice of Peace. I was calling women's shelters trying to make a secret escape from Austin. And I had contacted his family. They said he could come and live with them. He refused to leave. And I had purchased a .380 handgun when they had the gang members, the racist white gangs, trying to hurt me and Melby in the house because Austin had went to prison. And I did not know that Cynthia Olvera, his mother, was in a racist white gang, and that his father, Joseph Olvera, was in a racist white gang, and that Austin was in a racist white gang, and that they were retaliating against me while Austin was in prison, having the racist white gang members and police officers swarming around me in Melbourne's apartment, trying to harm us in the middle of the night. So I went and got a .380 handgun, and I had to run them away from our property twice. And they were huddling up in front of different establishments in the middle of the night, and they were trailing past me and Melbourne's apartment, trying to harm us in the apartment because Austin went to prison and they were racist. So I didn't know. They're like, oh, we're going to get his baby mama. We're going to harass his black baby mama while he's in prison for getting him locked up. I mean, these people are very wicked and they are very racist. And so I had purchased a .380 handgun to protect me in Melbourne in the house. And just in case anybody tried to come in the home, that I was not going to let any racist people come in the home and hurt my little baby boy about anything. And it was over Austin. And so Austin was abusing me for over an 8-week period, and the police were not really doing their job as far as apprehending him. He was fleeing from the scene where he was abusing me in my vehicle, and they were not going after him. They were saying, call back when he comes back. And when I would call back, he would run and flee again. And so they never did apprehend Austin, and he got drunk, continued to abuse me, and I tried to sneak away from him the day of the shooting. September 18, 2018, I got my son, and I was going to take him to get food, and Austin was going to come, but I was going to ask Austin to go into a store and get something for me, and I was going to drive off and leave him and just flee. And Austin started abusing me that morning inside of the apartment, September 18, 2018. There had been several 911 calls already. There was a total of about 19 911 calls over the period that Austin and I had been together since 2015. And that's when he got the first charge for domestic assault for abusing me at 230 Avenue G. And Austin was abusing me inside of the apartment that morning, and he had gotten drunk the night before, and he started to abuse me and Melbourne, and I snuck the 380 handgun into my purse, and I fended my way out of the home, out of my home, my apartment at 1308 Houston Street with my little boy in my arms, my purse on my other arm with my 380 handgun in my purse, and I ran, flagging people down, screaming for the police in the streets because he was not allowing me to dial 911 that day. He was trying to stop me from getting to my cell phone, and the gun was in my purse and my cell phone was in my purse, and he was trying to stop me from being able to call 911 before I put the gun in my purse. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to have to protect myself, and I didn't want to have to do it. And so I ran trying to get help because it had gotten that bad to where I have a gun. And so, as a woman, you're like, I got a fucking gun. Like, oh my fucking God. Like, you're not really thinking. Only thing you're thinking is, I have a fucking gun. Like, I do not want anybody hurting me or my baby. I'm going to fucking use it. I need help. Police. Because I could have shot him in the house. So it's obvious that I did not want to shoot him. So I ran, and my black neighbors were watching him abuse me, and they weren't helping. And I ran again and flagged down a white couple, and she didn't want to get out and help with her spouse, or I don't know if it was her spouse, but a male. She had a white male in the car with her, a white woman, and they didn't want to get out and help. They were acting afraid of Austin. And she said she'll call 911 and pulled far away in her car. Like, she didn't want to be involved in the altercation. And I still have my baby boy in my